Hey everybody, welcome back to Jennifer's Garden. Today we are making spaghetti sauce. That recipe that I made a couple weeks ago I really enjoyed, so I have a whole bunch of tomatoes now, so I'm going to show you the recipe for that. So these were all the frozen tomatoes that I had. I peeled them and cut them up, and I will put them through my KitchenAid, through the vegetable and fruit strainer. And then these are some of the tomatoes I took out of the garden the other day. I'm going to take the rest out today here in just a few minutes. I was just finishing up canning some more carrots, and I'll show you the recipe as we go along. But first I have to boil these tomatoes to peel the skins off them and cut them up, which is a tedious process, but you gotta do it. Now here's the tomatoes. We boiled them for a couple minutes and peeled all the skins off. So you boil them, you put them in a cold water bath, and then we peeled all the skins off. I cored them and I cut them down so I could put them through the strainer. So the pot on the left is 16 quarts. The pot on the right is 10 quarts, so I have 26 quarts altogether. As they stand, we'll put them through the strainer, and then we'll see how much liquid we get out of it. And here's the KitchenAid. We're using the strainer. This will take a while, but get them all through so we'll have liquid in one end. So that took me about 4 hours, a lot longer than I expected, but so after I put it through the KitchenAid strainer, I did restrain the liquid again, just because there were a few seeds in there, and I don't like my sauce tangy, and if you have a lot of seeds and pulp and stuff, it makes it tangy. So I figured I'd just spend the extra time, restrain it, and now this is what I have. So I got a full 16 quarts about in this pot, and then I ended up with almost 5 quarts in this. So I ended up with 21 quarts of liquid. So I didn't think that was too bad. I had 26 quarts of chopped tomatoes to start, and this is what I ended up with. So as you can see, it's 5:26, and I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning doing this, and I did a batch of carrots as soon as I got up this morning, and then started in the tomatoes. So oh well, it's all worth it. I'll show you in a little bit what we boil it down to. So essentially, the recipe calls to boil it down to like 2/3 or half of what you have. In the last batch that I did, I boiled it down to 2/3, and it was pretty good. I liked it like that. So counting it, measuring it, I'll probably have this pot about 3/4 full. That should be about the consistency. And you can always do it the way you want to. If you want to boil it down more because you want it thicker, that's fine. If you want to keep it a little thinner, then boil it less. It's all in what you want. And then I'll start chopping up the other veggies to go in it. But I'm definitely gonna have a beer and sit back for a little while. Alright, so I started boiling this at about 5 o'clock, so I'm up about 3.5 hours. I'm exhausted, so I'm gonna turn it off and put the top on it, and I'll just leave it here overnight. I have everything cut, my green peppers and my onions and everything all ready to go in the morning, and I'll turn it back on then and put everything together. All right, so it's the next morning, and I have my sauce back to a boil, and I'm going to put the rest of my ingredients in. So this recipe, she had said she boils the tomato juices down to about 8 quarts. I definitely have a lot more than that. This is a 16-quart stock pot, and obviously I'm not to the top, so. And there's no lines on this stock pot, which I wish there were. So we're about 2/3 down, so I would say maybe 12, 13 quarts, so I'm going to be kind of winging it. But according to her 8 quarts that she says, she would, it calls for a cup of onions, a cup of peppers, 5 cloves of garlic that you would fry up in a pan with some olive oil and fry it up first before you put it in, which brings out the flavor and everything, which was interesting to do. It worked very well. She calls for 2 tablespoons of salt, but when I did it last time, it was way too salty, so even though I'm not quite doubling it, I'm going to cut the salt in half. So I would put in 1 tablespoon of salt, and then 2 tablespoons of oregano, a 1/4 cup of parsley, and a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And the rest of it is just, I'm going to kind of do it by taste too, because I don't, like I said, the last time I had too much salt, which we figured out that you can combat that by using more brown sugar. I'll use brown sugar because the liquid is darker. If you're using something clear, you would use regular white sugar. So I have 2 cups of green peppers here, but I'm gonna start with about half, and if I want more, I'll use more. So I'm just gonna fry these up with the onions and the garlic. Maybe I'll use a little bit more than half. I don't mind them there. I like the green peppers in there. I have minced garlic, so I don't like it too garlicky, but I like a little hint of garlic, so I'm going to put a teaspoon of minced garlic in there. Like I said, I'll add more. I'll taste it along the way. It's all what you like. I like this recipe because it's just green peppers, onions, oregano, parsley, sugar, salt, all to taste, so it makes it easy. You don't need all these crazy ingredients. Alright, so I'll fry this up. Okay, so I did end up using the full 2 cups of chopped green peppers and onions. I said, what the heck, why not? So they're all cooked down. I turned my heat down just a little bit because now you're going to have to keep stirring so the other vegetables don't burn on the bottom. So let's take a peek here. You can always add more to your taste if you need more. So I have a quarter cup of parsley. I did about half a cup, so I doubled it. I had some from my garden. Put that in. And here's the oregano. I did start with a quarter cup, and I'll add more if I want to. Start putting that in. And I have about a half a cup of brown sugar. The recipe calls for a quarter cup, so I did double that. And that definitely does darken it up a little too. Salt. It calls for 2 tablespoons, but I'm going to barely use 1. Like I said, I can always add more, but the last time I had too much and I was freaking out. So we'll see how that tastes. If I need more, I'll add more. And two teaspoons of pepper. Stir it up well, and we'll give it a taste. Pretty good. Okay, so I got it to the taste that I liked. I did add a little bit more salt, a little bit more oregano. Kind of just do it how you like it. And I filled 7 jars. So and I put the jars in the oven at 270 degrees for about a half an hour. And I'm going to clean the rims off. A wet paper towel before I put the lids on. This ensures that you seal the lids properly. I have my little magnet stick here. To pull stuff out of the hot water, I put the lids in, not really boiling water, but just, actually I don't even think I turned this on, but it's around all the pots that are going, so it's just to soften this seal. There's a seal around here, and it's rubber, so you kind of get it heated up just a bit, just so it will seal real nice. And put the tops on. This is gonna be hot. And now I can put them in the water bath canner. The water bath, the pressure canner. Your pressure canner, just like your water bath canner, will hold 7 quart jars. Definitely hot. And I'll let them sit here, and I'll let this come to a boil, a roaring boil, while it's open. I'm going to keep everything the same temperature. Ooh. Not too far off of these, they're really hot. I try to make sure they're not touching, just in case if they're tapping each other. And I'll let them boil in there for about 10 minutes, then I'll put the lid on. Okay, so I put the jars in the canner. I let them come to a boil. I put the top on. I like to make sure everything's really pressurized. I don't want any problems with the pressure canner. So once it starts blowing the steam like that, I let it run for about 10 minutes. So that way there's no denying that there's equal pressure within the canner. So it's been about 10 minutes now, and I'm going to put the weight on it. And I'm going to watch it till it gets to 10 pounds of pressure. Since I'm in Queensbury, New York, we are about 350 feet above sea level. So anywhere from 0 to 1,000 feet, you keep it about 10 pounds. I don't want to get too high. I don't want to burn my stuff. So we're really, really low. So I'm going to watch this and keep it right at that 10 pounds of pressure. And I'm going to do this for 25 minutes because mine are quart jars. If you're going to use pints, it's 20 minutes. All right, we are creeping right up at the 10 pounds per pressure mark. Once it hits that 10, I'm going to start turning it down, which is now. And I'm going to keep my eye on this because I have a propane stove and it's so hot that I really have to keep an eye on it. So once we hit the 10, I'm going to hit 25 minutes on my timer. And we will go for 25 minutes. Okay, we hit the 25-minute mark, so I'm just going to turn my stove off. And I'm going to let the canner go down to 0 pounds of pressure and let it cool down so I can take the weight off and take them out and start all over again. So I did the second batch. I only ended up with 2 more quart jars and then a little dash. I'll put that in the fridge and we'll just use it. So Saturday morning I did the 7 quart jars of carrots and I ended up with 9 quarts of spaghetti sauce, which is delicious. And I will put the Pinterest recipe in the description below so that you can use that. My only advice was that it was a little too salty when I went by the recipe. So that is that. It was a very busy weekend, very tiring weekend, but definitely worth it. Thank you for growing with me so I can grow with you.